you guys! I'm ready for lesson 2 of module 20. This is called Categorize Quadrilaterals. So we're working with the same thing. So we know the attributes of different quadrilaterals. So we're using those attributes to categorize them. So same idea, same thing. The I can statement says I can identify whether a shape belongs in a group by number of sides, number of angles, sides that are equal in length, parallel sides, and by some shape names and attributes, putting all of it together. So the Spark Your Learning says Sydney uses computer programming to draw a quadrilateral that has at least one pair of parallel sides. Draw 3 or more shapes that the computer might draw. So our requirements are that it is a quadrilateral, meaning 4-sided shape, and it has at least one pair of parallel sides. So it doesn't say anything about the lengths of the sides. It doesn't say anything about the having right angles, equal sides. All it says is that it has one pair of parallel sides. So I'm thinking rectangle, trapezoid, parallelogram, all that good stuff. So I am going to draw a rectangle first, and a rectangle has 2 pairs of parallel sides, but that's okay because the requirement was that it would have at least one, so it's okay if it has more. The next shape could be a trapezoid. So a trapezoid has the top and bottom are parallel to each other, and then the sides are not. They go at a diagonal. So they're not parallel to each other, but the top and bottom are. So we have one parallel set. And then we can draw a parallelogram. So a parallelogram doesn't necessarily have to have right angles. So I'm going to do them off-centered like that, still parallel to each other, and then I'm going to do a diagonal. Oop, that kind of went wonky, that's okay. And like that. So now I have my 3 shapes that all have at least one pair of parallel sides. All right, next page. Oops, I went too far. Okay. Place the quadrilaterals into the correct categories. Some shapes may belong to more than one category. Quadrilaterals. How do you know that a shape is a quadrilateral? Now, if it's a quadrilateral, it has to have 4 sides and 4 angles. That's the only requirement. So we'll write down 4 sides, 4 angles. So now let's look and see which letters have 4 sides and 4 angles. A does, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. So they're all quadrilaterals because they have 4 sides and 4 angles. So now let's look at rhombuses. Which ones are rhombuses? Now to be a rhombus, you have to have 4 equal sides. That's like the main requirement. They don't have to be right angles. They can be, but it has to have 4 equal sides. So let's see. A has 4 equal sides. B does not. C does not. D does not. E does not. F looks like it does. G does not. H, I would argue H does. Let's see what the book says. Yeah. And I does. They all have 4 equal sides, and that's what makes a rhombus. Parallelogram. So how do you know that a shape is a parallelogram? It has 2 sets of parallel sides. That's like its main defining quality. 2 sets of parallel sides. So let's go through and see which ones have 2 sets of parallel sides. A does, B does, C does not, D does not, E does, F does, G does not. It's a little deceiving. H does, and so does I. All right, and then trapezoids that are defined as having exactly one pair of parallel sides. So we know that parallelograms can be trapezoids, but not all trapezoids are parallelograms. So when we talk about trapezoids, a lot of times your math problems will specify if it has exactly one set of parallel sides or at least one. When it says that there are at least one set of parallel sides, then that tells us that a parallelogram can be a trapezoid. If it says exactly one side, then a parallelogram wouldn't be, because a parallelogram has to have two. So if it only has one, then it can't be a parallelogram. Parallelogram can't be a trapezoid. So let's see. Exactly one pair of parallel sides. So how do you know that a shape is a trapezoid? At least one pair of parallel sides. In this case, we want exactly one. So that changes, and that's okay. So let's see. This one has two, so that's not a trapezoid. This one has two sets of parallel sides, so that's not a trapezoid. C has exactly one set of parallel sides, so that is a trapezoid in this case. D has exactly one set of parallel sides, so that is a trapezoid in this case. E has two, F has two, G, I would say G does. It kind of looks like they're all skew-wampus, but I would argue that the top and bottom are parallel to each other. Let's see, what does the book say? Yeah, the book agrees. H has two parallel sides, or two sets of parallel sides, and then I has two sets of parallel sides, so it's just C, D, G. All right, and then rectangles. How are rectangles defined? Like, what's their main quality? Their main quality is that they have 4 right angles and 2 sets of parallel sides. And so 2 sets of parallel sides, 2 sets of equal length sides. Those are the defining qualities. 4 right angles, 2 sets of parallel sides, 2 sets of equal length sides. So A has 4 right angles and 2 sets of parallel sides and 2 sets of equal sides. B is not, because it doesn't have right angles. C is not, D is not, E is because it has right angles. F is not, G is not, H is not, and I is because they have right angles, 4 right angles. All right, so next page it says, circle the words that describe the shape. Define a trapezoid as a quadrilateral that has at least 1 pair of parallel sides. So this is important. At least 1 pair of parallel sides. So it can have more than 1. This one right here, parallelogram, yes, because we have 2 sets of parallel lines. Quadrilateral, yes, because it has 4 sides and 4 angles. Rectangle, yes, because it has 4 right angles. Rhombus, yes. I was wondering, wasn't for sure if they all were the same length, all the sides were the same length, but I think it does. And a trapezoid, yeah, it could be a trapezoid. And a square. So this shape is classified as all of these names. Now remember, we want to be as specific as possible, so we wouldn't really call that a trapezoid, even though it is technically correct. We would want to be as specific as we can and say, oh, that's a square. We want to go down to like the narrowest description, even though they all technically make sense. This one is not a parallelogram because it only has 1 set of parallel sides. It is a quadrilateral because it has 4 sides and 4 angles. It is not a rectangle because it doesn't have 4 right angles. It is not a rhombus because it doesn't have 4 equal sides. It is a trapezoid because it has at least 1 set of parallel sides. And it is not a square because it does not have 4 right angles or 4 equal sides. This one, parallelogram. Not a parallelogram because it does not have two pairs of parallel sides. It is a quadrilateral because it has 4 sides and 4 angles. It is not a rectangle because it does not have 2 sets of parallel sides or 4 right angles. It is not a rhombus because it does not have 4 equal sides. It is not a trapezoid because it doesn't have a set of parallel sides. And it is not a square because it does not have 4 equal sides. So this is only a quadrilateral. Okay. The check understanding says circle the words that describe the shape. Define a trapezoid as a quadrilateral that has exactly 1 pair of parallel sides. So this is different from what we did before. Exactly 1, not more than 1. So this shape here, this would not be a parallelogram because it only has 1 set of parallel sides. It is a quadrilateral because it has 4 sides and 4 angles. It is not a rectangle because it does not have 4 right angles. It is not a rhombus because it does not have 4 equal sides. It is a trapezoid because it has exactly 1 set of parallel sides. And it is not a square because it does not have 4 equal sides and 4 right angles. Number 2, parallelogram, yes, because it has 2 sets of parallel sides. Quadrilateral, yes, because it has 4 sides and 4 angles. Rectangle, yes, because it has 4 right angles. Rhombus, no, not a rhombus, because it does not have 4 equal sides. Trapezoid, no, not in this case, because in this case, trapezoid is defined as a quadrilateral that has exactly 1 set of parallel sides. This one has 2. So in this case, it would not be considered a trapezoid. And it is not a square because it does not have 4 equal sides. Number 3, parallelogram, yes, because it has 2 sets of parallel sides. It is a quadrilateral because it has 4 sides, 4 angles. It is not a rectangle because it does not have 4 right angles. It is not a rhombus because it does not have 4 equal sides. It is not a trapezoid in this case because in this case, the trapezoid is defined as a quadrilateral that has only exactly 1 set of parallel sides, and this shape has 2, there's more. And it is not a square because it does not have 4 equal sides and 4 right angles. My gosh, are we getting the hang of it or what? Last page. Construct arguments. Explain why a rectangle is always a parallelogram, but a parallelogram is not always a rectangle. So now a rectangle always has 4 right angles and it always has 2 sets of parallel sides. Now that is the requirement for a parallelogram of having 2 sets of parallel sides. So a rectangle always will crush it. A parallelogram, however, does not have to have 4 right angles. So a parallelogram can be sometimes a rectangle. A rectangle is always a parallelogram. Because a parallelogram, it is not required for parallelograms to have 4 right angles, but it is for rectangles. Read number 5. Is a square always a rectangle? How do you know? A square is always a rectangle because, again, the only requirement for a rectangle is to have 4 right angles and 2 sets of parallel lines. And a square will always have 2 sets of parallel lines and 4 right angles. A rectangle is not always a square, however, and that is the next question. Is a rectangle always a square? No, because in order to be a square, you have to have 4 equal sides. And a rectangle, you do not have to have 4 equal sides. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. So that is the distinction. Nuts. I know. Hopefully, this was like mind-blowing a few lessons ago, but hopefully by now you're like, Miss L, I got it. Okay, number 6. Crystals can form when liquid rock under earth cools and hardens into a pattern. What quadrilateral best describes one of the crystal's faces that has 4 sides of equal length and 2 pairs of parallel sides? What do you think? 4 sides of equal length. So 4 sides of equal length. The 2 shapes that have to have 4 sides of equal length are a rhombus and a square, and 2 pairs of parallel sides. So again, that could be a rhombus or a square. Since it doesn't specify that there's 4 right angles, I'm going to assume that this is a rhombus, because if it was a square, they would have said it has 4 right angles. So since it does not say that, it can be a rhombus. Circle the shapes that are trapezoids when a trapezoid is defined as a quadrilateral that has exactly 1 pair of parallel sides, nothing more. So a parallelogram in this case is not a trapezoid because a parallelogram has 2 sets of parallel sides. So this one is a trapezoid because 1 set of parallel sides. This is a trapezoid because it has exactly 1 set of parallel sides. This is not. This is a parallelogram. It has 2 sets of parallel sides, and in this case we want exactly 1 pair. And then this one is nothing. It's just a quadrilateral. None of the sides are equal to each other, and none of the sides are parallel to each other. Woo! Okay, feeling groovy. One more lesson for the day, and then you guys are done. I hope you're working on your end of year assessment. I know this is a lot. So thank you for doing your best. Thank you for toughing it out. You guys are amazing. Love your guts, and I'll see you in lesson 3.